begins to soften under the golden sun. A new life whispers to the world that winter's finally done. I walk along the path we took when blossoms used to fly, underneath the canvas of a clear and pale blue sky. The scent of lilacs in the air is pulling at my sleeve, bringing back the magic that I used to still believe. Whenever the southern wind begins to blow so sweet, I find the traces of your steps along this quiet street. The world is turning green again, a vibrant living grace. But all I'm really looking for is the shadow of your face. Faces that come to mind in spring, like flowers in the park, shining through the memories and the fading of the dark. Every petal falling down is a word I didn't say, in the middle of a beautiful and long-lost April day. You return with the swallows and the warming of the light, waking up my lonely heart in the middle of the night. I see you in the garden where the tulips start to bloom. Your laughter is the melody that fills this empty room. The seasons turn their pages, but your image doesn't fade. In the sanctuary of the sun and the cooling of the shade, the cherry blossoms cover me in a shroud of white and pink, leaving me with nothing but the time to sit and think. It hides beneath the snow, waiting for the perfect time to let its beauty show. And even when the flowers die and summer starts to call, I'll remember how you looked, the loveliest of all. Faces that come to mind in spring, like flowers in the park, shining through the memories and the fading of the dark. Every petal falling down is a word I didn't say, in the middle of a beautiful and long-lost April day. Spring is just a mirror of the way you used to smile. Stay with me in memory for a little longer while the sun begins to settle on the edges of the green, leaving only traces of the things that we have seen. Spring is here again, and so are you. heat is rising from the sand, a heavy golden veil. I hear the wind begin to whisper through a distant sail. The forest is a deeper green, a canopy of dreams, where we used to wander by the cold and mountain streams. I close my eyes and feel the sun against my weary skin, remembering the summer nights and the joy we lived within. The sound of the cicadas is a chorus in the trees, carrying our secrets on the salt and on the breeze. The days were long and endless then, a bright and burning blue, when every single moment was a story told by you. Laughter of summers past, echoing across the sea, like a ghost of happiness that's returning back to me. In the heat of the afternoon and the cooling of the rain, I hear your voice calling out my name once again. It's a bright and bitter rhythm, a sun-drenched memory of the people that we were and the love we used to be. The evening sky was purple then, a bruised and beautiful sight, before we walked along the shore in the middle of the night. The waves would wash our footprints from the silver shifting sand, while I held the universe inside your steady hand. But now the beach is empty and the fire has gone cold, leaving only stories that will never quite be told. Some summers never really end, they stay inside the bone, in the smell of the ocean and the heat upon the stone. And even when the leaves begin to turn and start to fall, I can hear your laughter through the shadow and the wall. Laughter of summers past, echoing across the sea, like a ghost of happiness that's returning back to me. In the heat of the afternoon and the cooling of the rain, I hear your voice calling out my name once again. The sun is setting slowly on the water and the foam, carrying your laughter back to its eternal home. The waves continue falling on the quiet summer shore, until the sound of yesterday isn't audible anymore. Summer fades away, but the echo stays. growing taller now, a cold and distant blue. The mountains were a coat of gold in a deep and crimson hue. I walk through the alleyway where the maple leaves are piled, thinking of the days when the heavy world was mild. The air is crisp and lonely, a sharp and steady chill, while the heartbeat of the season is standing very still. Every branch is reaching out for the warmth that's left the sky, as the final birds of passage begin to say goodbye. We used to be a forest full of light and full of life, before the winter wind arrived like a sharp and cutting knife. Our season that vanished like fallen leaves on the ground, in a whirl of gold and amber, without a single sound, drifting in the autumn wind, away from where we stood, like a lost and lonely path within a dark and silent wood. It was beautiful while it lasted, a burning bright display, before the colors faded and the world began to gray. I find a dry leaf in my pocket, a relic of the past, a tiny brittle evidence of a love that didn't last. I remember how we sat beneath the old and red oak tree, watching how the leaves were falling down on you and me. We thought the gold would stay forever, we thought the light was real, but time is just a traveler with a cold and iron wheel. Make room for the winter and the heavy grayish sky. But as I walk through the park and the colors start to blur, I'm still haunted by the ghosts of the people that we were. Our season that vanished like fallen leaves on the ground, in a whirl of gold and amber, without a single sound, drifting in the autumn wind, away from where we stood, into the cold and heavy dark of a deep and silent wood. The sky is turning gray now, and the sun is finally gone, while the memory of our autumn lingers on and on. The wind is blowing harder now, and the trees are finally bare, leaving only the silence in the cold and winter air. Our season is over, and the leaves have all gone home. before I even had the chance to speak, watching how the frost began to bite upon my frozen cheek. We stood beneath the streetlight where the silver shadows glow, as the weight of all our secrets started falling with the snow. I looked into your eyes and saw a winter fast and wide, hiding all the burning things I used to feel inside. The air was thick and heavy with the things we didn't say, watching how the summer dreams were finally washed away. I opened up my mouth, but only cold air drifted through, frozen by the sudden fear of finally losing you. Words that stopped on a snowy day, buried in the white, lost within the silence of a long and winter night. Like a letter never posted, like a story never told, every sentence turned to ice within the bitter cold. The snow covers the pavement and it covers all the pain, while the words we never spoke begin to fall like frozen rain. Your footprints in the garden are the only traces left of a heart that's finally broken, of a spirit now bereft. I tried to call your name, but it was swallowed by the storm, wishing for a fireplace to keep the memory warm. The light is getting deeper now, it's climbing to my knees, while the ghosts of our conversations wander through the trees. Maybe silence is the only truth that winter ever knows, when the river stops its flowing and the heavy garden froze. And even when the spring arrives and all the colors show, the words we never said will still be sleeping in the snow. That stopped on a snowy day, buried in the white, lost within the silence of a long and winter night. Like a letter never posted, like a story never told, every sentence turned to ice within the bitter cold. I'll leave them in the darkness where the silver shadows play, until the winter finally takes the rest of me away. The snow continues falling on the quiet, empty street, where the dreams of yesterday and the cold pavement meet. Silent night, silent words. began to rise. Then the autumn gold was taken by the gray and winter skies. The calendar is turning, but my heart is standing still, fixed upon a memory with a slow and steady will. I watch the world transforming, putting on a different face, while I am anchored deeply to this old and sacred space. The wind is getting colder, then it's warming up again, washing all the asphalt with the rhythm of the rain. But the fire in my chest is not affected by the storm, staying in the middle of the dark and keeping warm. Emotions that remain even as the seasons start to change, in a world that's constantly becoming something strange. You are the only constant in the river of the time, the only melody that keeps it steady, ancient rhyme. Though the flowers die and the heavy snow begins to fall, your name is the only thing I have the strength to call. I see the people rushing, changing coats and changing dreams, chasing after shadows and the light that only gleams. But I am wearing sorrow like a coat that's made of lead, thinking of the things you did and all the things you said. Spring returns to find me in the same familiar chair, breathing in the ghost of you within the stagnant air. A circle that is walking in the dark, searching for the evidence and a quiet glowing spark. But even when the circle ends and starts again for real, the weight of what I feel for you is all that I can feel. Emotions that remain even as the seasons start to change, in a world that's constantly becoming something strange. You are the only constant in the river of the time, the only melody that keeps it steady, ancient rhyme. Let the seasons go their way and let the years go by. The love I hold for you is something that will never die. The sun begins to rise upon another early spring, and I am still right here, holding on to everything. Seasons change, but I remain. I stood upon the hilltop where the grass was tall and watching how the evening light was giving way to day. I whispered to the valley, and I whispered to the sky, calling out your name for one last and long goodbye. But the air was vast and hungry, it was reaching for the sound, taking every syllable before it reached the ground. Now the name I used to love is just a shadow on the wing, like a half-forgotten prayer or a song I used to sing. It doesn't belong to me anymore, it doesn't belong to here. It's drifting in the distance where the borders disappear. Names that vanished into the wind, lost within the blue, searching for the pieces and the memories of you, carried by the storm and by the gentle summer breeze, floating through the mountains and the ancient silent trees. I try to catch the echo, but my hands are finally bare, while your name is just a ghost within the cold and winter air. I see the leaves are dancing in a wild and frantic swirl, like the fragments of a story or a lost and lonely girl. I try to write your name upon the surface of the stream, but the water took the letters like the ending of a dream. The wind is getting louder now, a deep and hollow roar, reminding me that you don't live within me anymore. Maybe some things are too beautiful to keep within a word, like the flying of a spirit or the singing of a bird. So I let the wind continue on its long and lonely way, taking all the things I was too afraid to ever say. Names that vanished into the wind, lost within the blue, searching for the pieces and the memories of you, carried by the storm and by the gentle summer breeze, finding all the secrets and the hidden quiet keys. I'll listen to the wind until the night begins to fall, and I no longer have a name to answer to at all. The wind begins to settle and the stars begin to glow, taking all the heavy things that I used to really know. Your name is gone, and so am I. dust is dancing in the pillars of the sun. A quiet afternoon that tells me winter's finally done. But the warmth feels like a shadow of a day I used to know, when we walked beneath the blossoms in a soft and steady glow. The air is full of promises that no one's going to keep, while the memory of your laughter starts to wake from heavy sleep. The clock is ticking slowly on the yellow cafe wall, counting every petal that is gathered in the hall. I reach out for the light, but it is slipping through my hand like a desert made of diamonds in a very quiet land. A spring afternoon that will never return to me, like a ship that's finally vanished on a dark and silent sea. Everything is perfect, everything is bright and new, but the garden is a desert since I lost the heart of you. It's a beautiful departure, a long and slow goodbye, underneath the heavy blue of a clear and April sky. I see the children playing on the green and vibrant grass, watching how the busy world and the lonely hours pass. They don't know the gravity of a disappearing day, or the price we have to pay for the things we gave away. The shadows start to lengthen as the sun begins to dip, like the final bit of water from a broken silver lip. Time is just a thief that is dressed in gold and green, taking every beautiful and every sacred thing we've seen. And even when the flowers bloom and try to call my name, I'll tell them that this afternoon will never be the same. A spring afternoon that will never return to me, like a ship that's finally vanished on a dark and silent sea. Everything is perfect, everything is bright and new, but the world is just a hollow shell without the soul of you. Stay within the memory of the light and of the shade, before the final embers of the evening start to fade. The sun is gone and the spring is moving on its way, leaving me with nothing but the ghost of a lost day. It won't come back, I know. light is finally breaking on the edges of the night. As the shadows start to swallow all the artificial light, the green is turning heavy, like it's tired of the sun, knowing that the season of the fire is finally done. I sit beside the open door and feel the cooling breeze, listening to the shivering of the dark and weary trees. The sound of the cicadas is a dying hollow drone, leaving me within the garden, all alone and on my own. The days are getting shorter and the stars are getting clear, while the ghosts of all our summer dreams begin to disappear. Silence left at the end of summer, deep and very wide, like a secret that the heavy heart no longer wants to hide. The laughter and the music have been taken by the tide, leaving only emptiness where I used to feel my pride. It's a quiet desolation, a soft and steady chill, as the heartbeat of the summer starts to stand forever still. The sand is getting cold now on the empty silver beach, where the memories of you are finally out of reach. I trace the lines upon the wood of the old and weathered pier, thinking of the person that I used to hold so dear. The summer was a fever, a bright and burning dream, but now it's just a leaf upon a dark and quiet stream. Maybe we were made of light and only meant to stay until the sun was lowered at the ending of the day. And now the silence is the only thing that's left for me in the transition between the mountain and the sea. Silence left at the end of summer, deep and very wide, like a secret that the heavy heart no longer wants to hide. The laughter and the music have been taken by the tide, while the fire in my spirit has finally and slowly died. Let the autumn come and find me in the middle of the dark, searching for the evidence of a quiet, glowing spark. The final cicada falls silent in the trees as the scent of early autumn travels on the breeze. The summer is over, and so are we. single afternoon. They took their time to wither under the autumn moon. And we were just the same, a slow and steady change, turning every familiar thing into something cold and strange. I didn't see the ending until the trees were finally bare, watching how the silence grew within the stagnant air. We sat across the table, but our hearts were miles apart, following a different map and a different kind of chart. The warmth was leaving slowly like the sun beneath the hill, until the air between us was forever dark and still. Us drifting apart slowly like autumn in the park, walking into separate ways and into the separate dark, like the falling of the leaves and the fading of the gold. A story of a winter that was never quite fully told. It wasn't like a storm, it was a long and steady rain, washing away the evidence and the memory and the pain. The days grew a little colder with every word we didn't say, watching how the colors of our love began to turn to gray. I saw the frost beginning to gather on your coat, and every single letter and every single note. We were a forest once, full of light and full of life, before the distance cut us like a sharpened winter knife. Maybe some things are meant to fade and slowly disappear, like the color of the morning or the things we hold so dear. And as the wind begins to blow and the sky begins to weep, I realize that the promises were never meant to keep. Us drifting apart slowly like autumn in the park, walking into separate ways and into the separate dark, like the falling of the leaves and the fading of the gold. A story of a winter that has finally taken hold. We are just two travelers in the middle of the mist, remembering a world that no longer can exist. The final leaf has fallen on the cold and wooden floor, and I don't recognize the person at the door. Autumn is over, and so are we. Stars are sharp and silver in the deep and velvet blue, reminding me of everything I thought I knew. solid, a sanctuary of white, underneath the power of a long and winter night. I sit beside the fireplace, but the heat doesn't reach the soul, watching how the silence begins to take a heavy toll. The frost is writing poetry upon the window glass, watching how the ghost of the city slowly and quietly pass. I reach out for a memory, but it's brittle and it's cold, like a story of a winter that will never be retold. Memories left alone on a winter night, so deep, in a place where all the promises have finally gone to sleep. Like a garden under snow, like a river under ice, paying for the happiness with a heavy, heavy price. The stars are far away, and the world is finally still, while I am just a shadow on a cold and lonely hill. I find a photograph of us in a drawer of old things, thinking of the summer days and the joy the morning brings. But the edges are all frozen, and the colors are all gone, waiting for the evidence of a breaking of the dawn. Your face is like a phantom in the artificial light, fading into nothing in the middle of the night. Maybe winter is a mirror of the way we have to be, to find the hidden beauty in the things we cannot see. But as I watch the moonlight on the cold and empty street, I'm looking for the heartbeat and the warmth I'll never meet. Memories left alone on a winter night, so deep, in a place where all the promises have finally gone to sleep. Like a garden under snow, like a river under ice, I'm looking for a sanctuary that isn't made of lies. The stars are far away, and the night is very long, while I am just a fragment of a half-forgotten song. The fire has gone out, and the room is getting cold, taking all the stories that were never meant to be told. Winter remains, and so do I. The clock is not the only thing that's moving in the room. I see the early blossoms and the heavy winter gloom. I try to hold the sunlight, but it's slipping through my hand, like a desert of the time in a very quiet land. world is always changing, putting on a different face, leaving me behind within this old and sacred space. The wind is moving faster than the heartbeat in my chest, never taking time to find a sanctuary or a rest. Before I say hello, the spring is turning into June, underneath the power of a different rising moon. Seasons always leave first, they never wait for me, like a ship that's finally vanished on a dark and silent sea. They take away the colors and they take away the light, leaving me within the middle of a very long night. I'm a traveler in place while the world is on the run, watching how the moon is always chasing after sun. I sat beneath the willow tree and watched the leaves turn gold, thinking of the story that was never fully told. But by the time I found the words, the branches were all bare, and the scent of early winter was already in the air. They don't ask permission and they don't ask for a leave, they just stay a little while and they finally deceive. Maybe we are anchors in a world that's made of waves, searching for the evidence of the things that memory saves. But the tide is always turning, and the sky is always blue, and the seasons are the only things that ever stay true. Seasons always leave first, they never wait for me, like a ship that's finally vanished on a dark and silent sea. They take away the colors and they take away the light, while I'm just a shadow trying to find a place that's right. Let the years go by and let the world go on its way. I'll remain here in the silence of a disappearing day. Another leaf is falling, another flower dies, watching how the morning stars begin to wash away the lies. They leave first, and I stay. The smell of rain is just the same as it was a year ago. The river has the same and steady, quiet kind of flow. The cherry blossoms cover up the same and dusty street, where the shadows of the morning and the silver pavement meet. Everything is perfect, everything is in its place, except for the reflection of your lost and familiar face. I'm wearing the same coat and I'm walking the same way, underneath the heavy blue of a clear and April day. But the air is feeling different and the light is feeling strange, reminding me of everything that time has had to change. Same season, but a different kind of us, leaving all the memories to the silver and the dust. The world is repeating, but the heart has lost the key to the version of the people that we used to really be. It's a hollow kind of magic, a mirror made of glass, watching how the busy world and the lonely hours pass. I sit in the same corner of the cafe near the stand, holding on to nothing with a weary, tired hand. The song upon the radio is the one we used to love, while the clouds are moving slowly in the heaven up above. But I don't feel the rhythm, and I don't feel the spark. I'm just a lonely shadow in the middle of the dark. Maybe seasons are just rooms that we visit every year to find the hidden evidence of the things we hold so dear. But once the heart is broken, the light is finally gone. The room is just an empty space that the night is resting on. Same season, but a different kind of us, leaving all the memories to the silver and the dust. The world is repeating, but the heart has lost the key to the version of the people that we used to really be. I'll walk through the blossoms and I'll walk through the rain until the same old season starts to wash away the pain. The blossoms are all falling and the sun is going down, walking like a stranger through my own and quiet town. Same season, different soul. The sun was still high and the sky was still a vibrant blue when I realized that I was finally and slowly over you. The season hadn't ended and the leaves were still so green, but I was looking for a heart that was no longer to be seen. Before the first frost arrived and before the early snow, I felt the fire in my spirit finally and slowly go. Time was moving forward, but my heart had reached the end. The road that I was walking with a lover and a friend. It didn't need a reason, and it didn't need a cry. It just vanished like a vapor in the middle of the sky. Emotions that cooled before the time was ever right. Walking out of darkness and into the artificial light. The world was still in summer, but my soul was in the deep. In a place where all the promises have finally gone to sleep. It's a quiet kind of ending, a soft and steady chill. When the heartbeat of the passion starts to stand forever still. I stared into the water and I saw a different man, leaving all the ruins of a broken, dusty plan. I didn't wait for autumn, and I didn't wait for rain to wash away the evidence and the memory and the pain. The heat was still around me, but I felt the winter's breath, a premature arrival of a long and steady death. Maybe hearts have calendars that the world can ever see, defining all the borders of the things we have to be. And when the fire is over and the light is finally gone, it doesn't matter if the sun is still a thing that's resting on. Emotions that cooled before the time was ever right. Walking out of darkness and into the artificial light. The world was still in summer, but my soul was in the deep. In a place where all the promises have finally gone to sleep. I'll walk through the green fields with a heart made of the ice, paying for my freedom with a heavy, heavy price. The sun is still burning, but I am finally cold, taking all the stories that were never meant to be told, and did before it began. There was a time when the light felt like it was made for us, before the gold was taken by the silver and the dust. The air was full of magic and the world was full of grace, and I could find the universe in the shadow of your face. But the gate is finally locked, and the key is finally lost, leaving me to pay the price and the heavy, heavy cost. Every year the blossoms bloom and the sun begins to rise, but they never look the same to my weary, tired eyes, because 'cause that special season was a one-time kind of thing, like a bird with broken wings that has forgotten how to sing. That season that will never come again to find me here in the middle of the silence and the things I hold so dear. It's a treasure in the memory, a jewel in the dark, the last remaining evidence of a quiet, glowing spark. The world keeps on turning and the years keep on the run, but they'll never find the magic of our own and private sun. I walk through the garden, but the scent is not the same. The wind has finally forgotten how to whisper out your name. We were a masterpiece of light, a symphony of gold, a story of a summer that will never be retold. The stars are still the same, but the sky is not the one that we used to watch together until the night was finally done. Maybe some things are sacred because they only happen once, like a holy revelation or a prayer that God responds. And as I look behind me at the path that we have walked, I'll treasure all the silence and the times we ever talked. Season that will never come again to find me here in the middle of the silence and the things I hold so dear. It's a treasure in the memory, a jewel in the dark, the last remaining evidence of a quiet, glowing spark. Let the new seasons come and let the world go on its way. I'll stay within the sanctuary of our lost and golden day. The blossoms are all falling and the night is coming in, taking all the places where our story used to begin. But staying here. It's almost over and the room is getting dark, leaving only the memory and a quiet, glowing spark. The season's finally leaving and the wind is getting cold, taking all the stories that were never quite told. But I find a little warmth within the palm of my hand, like a single grain of gold in a bucket full of sand. It's a tiny bit of mercy in a world that's growing gray, the final lingering embers of a disappearing day. I hold it very closely, and I hold it very tight, to find the strength to walk into the middle of the night. A tiny bit of warmth left at the end of the year, holding on to everything that I still hold so dear. It isn't like a summer sun, it isn't like a flame, but it's enough to help me whisper out your familiar name. Like a secret in the winter, like a flower in the frost, searching for the pieces of the things that we have lost. The world is turning white now and the river's finally still, while I am just a shadow on a cold and lonely hill. But I feel the final traces of the sun upon my skin, reminding me of all the joy that we lived and we were in. It's a lingering reflection, a soft and steady glow, that follows me through everything and everywhere I go. Maybe warmth is not about the fire or the light, but the courage to continue in the middle of the night. And as long as I can feel this little spark within my soul, I'll find a way to make the broken pieces finally whole. A tiny bit of warmth left at the end of the year, holding on to everything that I still hold so dear. It isn't like a summer sun, it isn't like a flame, but it's enough to help me whisper out your familiar name. In the transition between the darkness and the bright, I'll carry this little warmth until the coming of the light. The snow is falling gently on the quiet cafe floor, and I am not afraid of walking out through the door. A little